Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope everybody has had a fantastic week and is looking forward to a great weekend. Students, in this class we are looking at IELTS Task 1 writing. Specifically, we are going to be working with a bar chart for the academic IELTS Task 1, and we're going for that Band 9 level writing success. Welcome Carolina, our chat moderator. Welcome to our members. Hi S. Bakrati. Welcome to many of our viewers. Kurti, Bakhvia, Duke Dong, good to see many of you in this class while we wait for a few more of your peers. Let's take a quick look at our websites that are here to help you. This is aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Check us out here. Click this big red button to join the premium package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. When you join, you will have a My Student account. In that account, you will have computer-based IELTS practice exams, full online course, exams, workbooks, study plans, over 100 HD lesson videos, IELTS audios, and additional services. So lots and lots of help there for you. For the general IELTS, it's the green background. Again, click that big red button to join the premium package. We are a British Council IELTS test registration center and certified agents, so you are in good hands with us. I'm the face of this company, as you've probably figured out. However, we do have multiple brilliant professionals working with us. So definitely, if you're going to sit the IELTS, join our group and you'll do better. Okay, on Sunday at this time, we will be releasing my IELTS Band 9 Journey Episode 2 test preparation. I sat the IELTS exam a few months ago and we documented this series, so you can join me on my Band 9 IELTS journey to learn lots of tips about the IELTS exam and really what happens from the actual experience itself. So that's really exciting. We have apps that link to our websites. Academic IELTS Help links to ahelp.com. General IELTS Help links to gieltshelp.com. So download and install those on your mobile. And if you have questions, send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com and I can help you out. Today, right now, task 1, writing bar chart for everyone. Tomorrow, we'll have a Q&A session for members, questions and answers. So members, bring your questions tomorrow. Ois, Nikhil, Rashika, I'm talking to you. And then we'll have speaking part 2 for everyone after that, the cue card, okay? Before we take a break for a couple of days. All right, so now for task 1 writing, let's get into it. Oh, yeah, I'll usually write up gieltshelp.com there. For general IELTS task 1, you can go here and check it out, okay? All right, this is academic task 1 writing. It's different from general. General will be an email or a letter, all right? This is a chart or a diagram. IELTS task 1 writing, you should spend about 20 minutes on this task. The following chart shows the frequency of U.S. citizens eating at fast food restaurants in the given years. Report the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words. That's minimum 150 words. If you do not write 150 words, it's an incomplete task and you lose a band score. If you write at least 150 words, you have a chance to get a better band score. If you write about 200 words, good quality, then you're getting into Band 8, Band 9 category or sphere. All right. So let's take a quick look at this chart. So here we go. Okay. We've got the y-axis here. The y-axis is showing the percentage of people in the US, 0% all the way to 40%. We have our legend here for the different colors. So we've got blue, red, gray. Blue is 2003, then red is 2006, and then gray is 2013. So we've got a 3-year difference here, and we've got a 7-year difference there. So interesting to note. And then, of course, we have our x-axis. Okay, so this one going up horizontally, that's your y-axis. And the one going this way, that's your x-axis. All right. And your x-axis has this nominal data, this name data. Okay, you have every day, so people who are eating fast food every day, several times a week. So decreasing in frequency. Okay, so every day is the most frequent, then several times a week, a little bit less frequent, once a week, once or twice a month, a few times a year, and never. So people who never eat fast food. All right. So that's what our graph looks like. Always take a good look at that graph before you do any kind of writing. Okay. Montasha is asking, how many different types of sentence structures is essential for achieving a band 8? It's tough to say, Montasha, because your sentence structure depends on your content. What's most important is that you have clear writing, but certainly a band 8 level writing will have quite a few different types of sentence structures, like progressive form of the verb, present perfect, conditionals, maybe some passive. So generally speaking, good writing will have at least several different types of grammatical structures. Okay. All right. Okay. Kambuj Karaj, what type of task do you have to do? It depends on your exam. There are lots of different types. Okay. All right. So step number 1 is to write the introduction. And how do we write the introduction for task 1? Task 1 should be easier than task 2 because most of the information is there. You just have to put it together. Okay, so step 1, write the introduction. You could say the introductory paragraph. And what should the introductory paragraph be? Okay, Bafia says paraphrase the question. That's half points. Jasura says paraphrase the question. That's half points. So that's half of it. Bakrad says paraphrase the question and give details using the main information in the graph, right? Okay. Exactly. So paraphrase the question and give details using the main information in the graph. All right. Perfect. So here, let me show you how to do this. So this bar chart, okay? So the original question says the following chart. You don't need to say the following or the given. It's not necessary. It's obvious. But instead of chart, we want to be more specific. So this is not a line chart. This is not a pie chart. This is a bar chart. So I include that detail. This bar chart shows. Instead of shows, we can say illustrates. The frequency, okay? So the regularity. Of U.S. population dining at fast food restaurants in 2003, 2006, and 2013. Okay, so here I'm doing lots of paraphrasing. And then for points where I have more details like given years, instead of given years, I actually write the years. Okay, we have 3 years here. And I can say as depicted by the legend. Okay, this is a legend that shows you what color means what. So giving some more details here. Okay, now I want to give a little bit more. All right, a little bit more because this graph is kind of interesting. So here the x-axis, or sorry, the y-axis. Okay, it's this horizontal axis. It's kind of irregular, so it goes from 0% to 40%, which is less than half of the total US population, okay? And the difference between these points of measure is clearly 5%. So if this y-axis were 0 to 100% and differences of 10%, I might not discuss it because that's very common, but this is a little bit irregular. And if I'm giving a presentation on this graph, and that's really what you're doing in task 1, is you're doing a written presentation of the graph, then I would emphasize to my audience, in this case to my reader, to pay attention to this y-axis and notice that the y-axis measurement is from 0 to 40%, okay, with intervals of 5%. So it's worth mentioning that sometimes teachers will say, oh, you don't need to do that on IELTS. Well, if you want a band 8 or a band 9, you should do that on IELTS, okay? So it depends what your goal is. If you want a band 6 or a 6.5, you don't have to do that. But if you want a band 7, 8, 9, you should, okay? So the y-axis shows the percent of people from 0 to 40% with intervals of 5%. Okay, it's worth mentioning that for clarity for the audience. Okay, as well, the x-axis shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nominal measures of frequency. From everyday fast food consumption to never. That's your band 9 introduction. Okay. So a band 9 introduction is much more than just a simple paraphrase of the question. If you're just paraphrasing the question, like if you simply write, for instance, the given chart indicates the regularity of American people eating at fast food restaurants in the provided years. If you write that, you can get a band 6. Okay. That's just the way it works. That's not going to be enough to get a higher band. Is that clear, everyone? So is it clear that there's a very distinct difference between a band 6 and higher bands? So band 6 is a simple paraphrase. Band 8, band 9 is more than that. It goes beyond the paraphrase. It includes details. Is everybody clear on that? It's very important. Okay. All right. Adarshpreet says, yes, sir, that's clear. All right. Meanwhile, Nick Hill writes, this bar chart illustrates the proportion of the repetition of U.S. dwellers from 0 to 40% with intervals of 5% that eat at 5 fast food restaurants in 2003, 2006, and 13. I think U.S. dwellers, Nick Hill, is a bit awkward. I would say the bar chart illustrates the proportion of regularity of Americans, comma, from 0 to 40 with an interval of 5 that eat at fast food restaurants. That's how I would do it, Nick Hill. Okay? All right? Let's see. Toya says the bar chart depicts the frequency of people in the USA whom consume junk food in restaurants in the years 2003, 2006, and 2013. The y-axis represents the percentage of people from 0 to 40% with intervals of 5%. Okay, good. That's great lexical resource. You're picking up marks for coherence and lexical resource. Okay. So when your teacher tells you you don't need to write about the y-axis, yeah, you don't need to write about anything. You can just write one sentence. This is a bar chart. The question is, how good of a mark do you want to get, right? For a band 9, you certainly need to do more than just paraphrase. Okay, all right. And I can see that a lot of people are saying, great. Ahmed is asking a question again. Ahmed is asking, is 150 words enough? Not for a band 8 or 9. Okay, that's another important point. So we talk to IELTS examiners all the time, and all of them say that, well, even if you write a perfect essay, usually 150 words is not enough for a band 7, 5, 8, or 9 because you don't have enough content. That's the absolute minimum, but it's not enough. Okay, you need more. All right. Okay, so that is our introduction. Okay, now what comes next? So I have my introduction. After the introduction, what do I need to do? And task 1 in the academic IELTS is really a recipe. In some ways, I think that task 1 in the general IELTS is almost more challenging than the academic because you have to think more for the general IELTS task 1. In the academic one, the information is all there. So as long as you know what you're doing and you've practiced this, then you're good to go. Okay? All right? So the next step is the overview, and this is kind of weird. The IELTS wants this to be separate from the introduction, which in the real world in university is the same as the introduction, but that's fine. Satisfy the IELTS. Give an overview. So overview is the main feature here. Okay, it's the most observable point. Okay, so that you can see. And remember, it's not always the most and least. Okay, sometimes it is, but oftentimes it's not. Very commonly, IELTS candidates write, at first glance, most people, or the biggest amount. Okay, that's again like a band 6. It's not always the best way to describe. Okay, is everybody clear on that? So if you're writing a template that you learn, like, oh, for the overview, just say the most and the least. That's not going to work. You have to be really careful. Sometimes it's correct, but oftentimes it's not. Okay? Everybody got that? So it's the most observable feature. Okay? What is the most observable feature here? Okay. All right. So what do we notice the most? What do we notice? Jasur says it shows a parabolic pattern, okay, of frequency. Yeah, that's pretty good. Absolutely. So once a week or once or twice a month are quite similar, all right? Several times a week, a few times in a year are quite similar. What else do we notice? So look at the years too, 2003, 2006, and 2013. Okay, I think there's a couple of interesting key features here that I notice right away when I look at this. Bakia says most citizens tend to eat fast food restaurant once a week, once or twice a week, or once or twice a month. Yeah, that's okay. Anybody know what this type of a curve is called in statistics? Okay. There's also that curve there. This has a very unique name in statistics. Okay, if some of you have studied parabolic is okay, but it's actually not just the parabolic. There's a more specific name for this in statistics. Okay. When you have this type of curve, it's actually called a bell curve. Okay. So you have the majority of people here, and then you have a decreasing volume here, and you have a significantly decreased volume here. If you study statistics, this is actually called a bell curve, and there's a very unique explanation to this. So if you're curious, do a bit of Googling on this, and you're going to find out some very interesting information about the nature of human beings, which is not surprising. Okay. So these bars indicate a bell curve in the frequency. Okay. And you will have to explain that to your examiner, because even your examiner might not know bell curve unless they, if they did university and studied math, sociology, psychology, political science, these majors, you would learn about the bell curve in your first year of studies. Okay. Sometimes, Abik, it is referred to as the normal distribution curve, absolutely, because it's so common, right? So we can say at first glance, there is a very clear bell curve represented by the bars, meaning that the majority of Americans had fast food either once a week or a couple of times a month. Okay. Furthermore, the percentage of fast food consumption did not change greatly in the 3 assessed years. Okay, so this would be my overview. And again, you have to remember, IELTS is not an ESL exam. That's why you've got the academic general versions. The IELTS is also a thinking exam. It is also testing your knowledge. I know that sometimes our clients say to us, like, hey, wait a second, this isn't fair. IELTS isn't just testing my English. Yeah, no, they're not. They're absolutely testing your knowledge as well that you've learned in school and that you've experienced from life. They want to know your level of knowledge for immigration, visa, going to university. That makes sense. I think that's fair. Okay, that's a fair assessment there. And so it is good to read up on these kinds of topics when you're going into the IELTS exam. So if you're doing the academic IELTS exam, reading a little bit about the fundamentals of statistics, graphs and charts are a big part of statistics. If you read, it's not a lot, students. I mean, if you read 20 minutes a day on basic statistics, you will definitely read about the bell curve. Okay? All right. Binod writes, overall, it can be observed that those who visit restaurants once a month and once or twice a month, once a week, you mean, Binod, careful with your information, and once or twice a month have the highest proportion, while those who are at restaurants every day or never make up a tiny proportion. Yeah, I think that's maybe too detailed. I would actually do that in the analysis, Binod, with more supporting data. Bakrat writes, it can be seen clearly the bell curve from the initial to the end phase, most people visit junk food restaurants either once a week or a couple of times a month. Yes, very good. Okay, and now we write the body of our essay, which is the analyses. Okay, and indicate your points before you start to write. Okay, so here, the points for comparison, where we compare the similarities and differences, obviously would be the years, okay, and the frequencies, so how frequently people go, okay, and going into more details. Now, you don't want to mention a lot of percentages because your goal is to interpret the data, so to make sense of it, not to use difficult language for your reader. Okay, so you want to use easy language. And use your overview as kind of a guide. So we talked about the bell curve. We talked about these 2 points first. Okay. Now, we also have the years here. So I would talk about these percentages first. Okay, so 1 would be the once a week or twice a week, described a bit more clearly, okay? And then I would also say that the years in these would be my number 2. So talking about the years, okay? So for once a week, that was more common in 2006. And then by 2013, it was more common to have fast food once or twice a month. Okay, so that would be my second point, because it's kind of interesting that popularity of fast food, although not a big difference, did slightly drop, right? So here, this dropped to here, okay, and this kind of increased here. I wouldn't really worry about 2003. You cannot write about all of the information. So if you try to compare every year and every frequency, you will definitely run out of time and you would be writing an essay that's way too long, okay? So you have to choose, and the question tells you that. It says, select the main features and make comparisons where relevant. All right, so they're trying to tell you in the question that, hey, don't compare everything because that's going to be too much, plus it'll be confusing. So you just take out the main points, okay? So I would do that as number 2, okay? And then for number 3, I would compare this here, okay? So several times a week and a few times a year. So similar proportions of Americans had fast food either several times a week or a few times in the year. Okay, so that would be my third point of comparison. And then again, we can see that between 2006 and 2013, there's a decrease in the amount of people having fast food several times a week, but there's no change. Okay, so that would be my point number 4. All right, and then my point number 5 would be the similarity between every day and never. Okay, and if I still have time, I might do a point 6, which is the lack of change. Okay. So you have to really pay attention to the time. Make sure that you don't go over the 20 minutes because you need 40 minutes for task 2. Task 2 is worth twice as much as task 1, okay? So it's got twice the weight of task 1 for your overall mark. So make sure to leave that 40 minutes, okay? All right, so you have 30% here. Before we start writing this, 30% is what portion of the population? Okay, so let's make sure that we're using good language here and we're not always just writing percent, percent, percent. What portion of the population is 30% or 33% as we get into these? Yeah, Lucas Nitz says it's a third. Exactly. Yeah, so writing a third of Americans is better than writing 33%. Okay, so use that kind of paraphrasing. Pay attention to that. Very good. Okay, 1/3 or 1 in every 3 people, Rashika. Yeah, very good. Very nice. All right, so let's describe this this trend here according to these numbers. Okay. So first of all, let's discuss this once a week or a couple times a month. Okay. And keep paraphrasing. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to write, you write, and then I'll take a look. Okay. So okay, so that's my first point there. All right, going into more detail, in all 3 years, roughly a third of Americans consumed fast food in all 3 time periods. However, it is interesting to note that more U.S. citizens ate junk food in 2006 once per week than in 2013. That's this comparison here. And notice how I don't really give the percent difference. It's not absolutely necessary because that loses the reader, okay? That becomes confusing. And then more people had junk food once or twice a month than in 2013, okay? So then once per week, okay? So that's what I describe here, right? So going into more detail, in all 3 years, roughly a third of Americans, that describes those 6 bars, consumed fast food in all 3 time periods. However, it is interesting to note that more U.S. citizens ate junk food in 2006, once per week in 2013, and more individuals had fast food once or twice a week in 2013 and 2006, okay? Okay, let me finish that idea. So going into more detail, in all 3 years, roughly a third of Americans consumed fast food in all 3 time periods at least a few times a month. Okay? However, it is interesting to note. So that's where I become a little bit clearer. Okay? Let's see what you come up with. All right. Nick Haim says every third, Nick Haim, not every 3, every third. Every third U.S. citizens were likely to eat such food once a week. the same ratio applied in 2013 with the frequency of 1 to 2 times a week. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I see you have that writing before there on as well. Americans were most frequently to consume fast food once a week or once or twice per month, in which the percentage hovers around 30%. Yeah, so for me, rather than writing percents there, I think it's better to say a third of the population, or 1 in every 3 Americans. Okay. All right. And make sure that the data is accurate, but it's pretty accurate. I mean, with the exception of this, they're roughly around a third here for all those graphs. Okay. All right. So we're describing that bell curve. Okay. So again, similarly, equal portions of Americans ate fast food either once a week, or sorry, several times a week, or a few times in a year. Okay. Ranging from approximately 15% to 20%, right? I mean, 20% is the high end, okay? But it's more closer to 15%, okay? So 15 to 20%. Again, I'm not getting lost in small little details, okay? So equal portions of Americans ate fast food either on several occasions per week or a few times in a year, ranging from approximately 15 to 20%. Now, I don't know if I'm going to go into a lot of details about the similarities or differences here. I could do that later. Okay, so I could say again, there was more people eating fast food in 2006 several times a week than a few times a year. But I think that's getting lost in details, and I'm going to be already at about 180 words. So by the time I finish this essay, it's going to be 200 words. I don't need that level of detail. All right. Again, don't get lost into details, because then you'll run out of time and you're going to miss writing about the main points. Okay. Okay. Bakram says you can't use third, fifth in terms of bar charts because the figures are not out of 100%. Yeah, the total would be 100%. So that's not quite accurate. So you do have to pay attention to that. This isn't 100%, but this is still a third of the population. The reason why this chart, okay, that's it. If you were asking me that as a question, Param Gandhi, then I can explain this to you clearer. The reason this chart doesn't go to 100% is because you would just have a lot of empty space. But clearly, this chart is a portion of the total number of American citizens. So 30% is still a third of 100. Hopefully that makes sense, okay? So the reason why they didn't include any more of this chart is because there's just no reason to have all that empty space, okay? Does that make sense? All right. Okay, so now I can write the last part, okay? So So those who ate out at fast food venues either every day or never constituted the lowest proportion of Americans. At 5% or less, okay? All right. So, so far, it's good. Now, here, if I want to say, okay, well, yeah, but I haven't really gotten into the years so much. So here, you know, the difference between here and 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 here. So these are the differences in the years. I can kind of do that all as one because these are really just slight fluctuations from year to year, okay? And I can do that as my last point of analysis. So I can say mostly the percent fluctuations among, not between, because we have 3, are either slight, so ranging from a difference of 1% to maybe 7%, let's say. It doesn't have to be perfectly accurate. Or none at all. So if I want to be very specific here, okay, because here you can see that there's basically no change. There's no change. There's no change. So we have several instances where there's literally no change in the percentage of people eating fast food restaurants or the frequency of people eating fast food restaurants in those years, okay? So I'm not going to get lost in those details, all right? Hopefully that makes sense. Is that clear, everyone? All right. Now, I'm roughly at the 200 word point. And at this point, I want to review. So if I've been writing for about 16, 17 minutes, I want to now use about 3 minutes to review my writing and correct any mistakes that I might have. Okay? All right. Xuan Kwang says, how much do we need to compare if the graph has a lot of details? And Xuan, it will have a lot of details, more than what you need to do. So you need about 5 to 8 points of comparison, and you need about 200 to 230, 40 words for Band 8, Band 9 scores, okay? All right, so let's read over this. Okay. The bar chart illustrates the regularity of U.S. population dining at fast food restaurants in 2003, 6, and 13, as depicted by the legend. The y-axis shows the percent of people from 0 to 40%, with intervals of 5% as well. Let's put a comma in there when starting a sentence with as well, leading expression. The x-axis indicates 6 nominal measures of frequency ranging from everyday fast food consumption to never. At first glance, there is a very clear bell curve represented by the bars, meaning that the majority of Americans had fast food either once a week or a couple of times a month. Furthermore, the percentage of fast food consumption did not change greatly in the 3 assessed years. Going into more detail, in all 3 years, roughly a third of Americans consumed fast food in all 3 time periods at least a few times a month. However, it is interesting to note that more U.S. citizens ate junk food in 2006 once per week than in 2013, and more individuals had fast food once or twice a week in 2013 than 2006. Similarly, equal portions of Americans ate fast food either on several occasions per week or a few times in a year, ranging from approximately 15 to 20%. Those who ate out at fast food venues either every day or never constituted the lower proportion of, or the lowest, proportion of Americans at 5% or less. Mostly, the percent fluctuations among the years given are either slight, ranging from 1 to 7%, or none at all. And then a descriptive or definitive clause, as is the case with Americans who never ate fast food in 2006 and 13. Now, if you're really going for that band 9, you might want to write a summary. It's not a conclusion. I saw somebody asking earlier, like, do we need a conclusion for task 1? No, but you can write a summary. Summary is just a clear observation from the graph. It's not a conclusion. You do not give an opinion. In summary, the graph implies that, or the data, I should say, implies that most U.S. citizens have fast food once a week or a couple times a month, and this is a consistent rate regardless of the year measured. Okay? So the pattern of Americans eating fast food stays fairly consistent, right? And that's probably the word I should have used. Yeah, I did use it. This is consistent. All right, there we go. So that would be my summary. In summary, the data implies that most U.S. citizens have fast food once a week or a couple times a month, and this is a consistent rate regardless of the year measured. Okay, that would be my summary. Okay, so, all right. All right. Okay, so there we go. That's the end there. Okay. And that's what you need to do for a high band. Okay, high bands are much more than just simply using template writing. And you want to practice and practice so that it's automatic, using the information that's given, not too much thinking, and then transitioning smoothly into task 2. Okay, that's it for today, everyone. Tomorrow I will be back, and at this time tomorrow we're going to look at a speaking part 2 cue card, and in the same way I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step process on how to come up with a high band answer. So make sure to join me for that tomorrow. You're very welcome, Nick Hill. You're very welcome, everyone. The rigid person, join a little bit earlier tomorrow. Thank you, Carolina, for moderating this class. It's much appreciated. Thank you, members, for your support. Have a great day and a great start to your weekend. I'm Adrian, signing out from Victoria. Make sure to check us out at aehelp.com and glshelp.com for lots more IELTS help. Bye for now.